Welcome to Board Game Binge, the place where we bring you bite-sized, bingeable board game content across the industry. I'm your host, James Staley, and in this episode, we're chatting with Thom Mathews from Pet Roc Games. Tom's debut 10-minute hidden roll game, Pizza Rolls, is currently on Kickstarter. Tom, welcome to the binge. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing quite well, thank you.
It is awesome to have you on this podcast all the way from Gamma. So thank you so much for kind of stepping out from the con, kind of going and finding a quiet hotel room somewhere so you could actually chat with us. I know you're a really busy guy with the campaign and obviously with the show. So I do appreciate your time. We'll get you back to the con in short order. But first and foremost, my friend, how is the convention going for you?
It's pretty well, I think. This is my first time at Gamma. As you'll learn in this episode here, I am very new to the industry. Pizza Roll is my first foray into doing anything like this. I've been designing games for a long time, but this is all new to me. So trying to get out there and meet lots of people and give them lots of business cards and show off
Oh,
my
that's
game. Show
awesome.
off, been showing off some other designs that I'm working on.
Sure.
But yeah, it's been going great so far.
Are you walking the floor or do you have a booth or kind of what's the
So
setup?
as it turns out, the way game works is that the exhibit hall wasn't even open the last couple of days, um, and which was a surprise to me. But it was a lot of seminars and all sorts of people talking about different aspects of the industry. I learned a lot about distribution models and other but people sort of like me who are more successful than me, talking about what they've been up to and stuff like that. So I've been learning a lot and it's been really valuable.
Oh, it's amazing. This is what I would say to anybody who's trying to get into the industry. And I was talking about this, I think it was about 3 or 4 episodes ago with one of the guests. Like the conventions is the best way to network, right? Like as you're saying, if you have designs you want to get out and potentially have other people publish, showing your game to others, getting people to play test your game, getting your face in front of other people, networking, so that you have kind of that network you can build upon and call upon as you're kind of working your way through the system and trying to kind of build out your audience and certainly having those speed dial relationships where if you have a question on distribution or when you get to manufacturing and things like that, you have somebody you can reach out to and say, hey, I got a question here, can you help me out? Of course, most people in the industry are more than willing to help the other designers and publishers with anything any questions they have. I often do that myself. If someone has a question, like I said, bring me up. You know what? Let's talk, and I'll do my best to help you out. And I'm sure as you learn more, you're gonna do the same thing and to pay it forward to others, which I think
Yeah,
is
yeah.
pretty cool. So this is your first game. First of all, Pet Roc Games. Where did you get the name from, other than just the old classic Pet Rocks?
So I love puns. Pizza Rolls itself is a pun. Uh, most of the other designs that I have involve puns somehow.
Sure.
I just really like them. And perhaps it's a bad idea to name myself Pet Roc Games just because people are going to assume there's a K involved. Um, so they might try to look it up wrong. But my hope was that I would get to the chance to explain. Oh yeah, no K in Pet Roc. Be easy to remember. They'd have that thing that oh, it's a pun.
Yeah.
It'll help them remember. Maybe that's a bad idea. Who knows? But
Yeah, it's cool. I like the logo too. Like it's somebody once told me in branding, own a color, own a brand is was kind of their saying. And you've got that yellow and black, which is a very clean logo. So I always like to see clean logo designs like that. So kudos to you on that. So how like gaming is such a weird thing to get into for most people. And so like do you mind me out like what is your day job? Like what do you do kind of outside of gaming?
so I do have a day job. It is not interesting at all, and not gaming related at all either. I do database management for an insurance company.
Nice.
Uh, and so that's all I'm going to say about that.
Well, you know what? And I find this the case with most people who are in the industry. First and foremost, I think most people's jobs they would probably consider boring because once you're doing it anything long
Sure,
enough,
yeah.
it becomes routine, and games become that escape. right? Where they
Right.
say, hey, this is something that either allows me to tap if you're doing database management, maybe you need it. You have a create, obviously you have a creative style, a creative side of you that you need to tap, right? And if you're
Yes.
not getting that in your day-to-day work, you have to find an outlet somewhere for your own happiness, quite frankly, to kind of explore that creative side. Um, so it doesn't surprise me when you say something like this, right? What I would say though is there's always transferable skills in every job. Any job anybody has, there's something in that job that you can use that's going to give you a leg up in one area of the industry. With database management, I would assume dealing with numbers, dealing with spreadsheets, putting together campaign tracking, right? And tracking your backers and kind of slicing and dicing the different segments of your backers. These are all things that might be a challenge for someone else, but for yourself, I'm sure
Right.
it's like you can do it in
Yeah.
your sleep, right? So I think it's cool seeing different different careers and how they can kind of bring those skill sets to the market. Was there anything in this as you got into it that was kind of foreign to you, I guess, that would you say was something that was maybe a huge learning curve for you at all?
Um, I mean, yeah, a lot of aspects, most
Sure.
aspects outside of the game design was a huge learning curve. Um, I mean, the biggest one is definitely marketing.
Yeah.
Um, like I was just telling you before we started, like I'm a quiet person. I am not boisterous. If you meet me, I'm not gonna run up and jump around, and I'm gonna probably be very soft spoken and only speak up when there's nothing else happening.
Yeah.
That's my default level. So like it's a real challenge for me to put myself out there. It's also a real challenge for me to uh, just learn how to how to put myself out there and all of the different
Yeah.
avenues that I should be exploring of how to put myself out there. I'm on that, like being on this podcast, for instance, things like that. I had to stop and think about, okay, how do other people do this? Like, because
Yeah.
I'm not particularly interested in marketing.
Yeah.
I'm a game designer. I'm not a marketer.
The good news is most people don't know what to do and they're just trying to figure it out just like you, right? And I still am trying to figure things out in this industry. And the best way to approach that is just to kind of put yourself out there and say, I'm just going to figure it out, right? It doesn't matter if you're an expert in marketing. It doesn't matter if you're good in front of a camera or good in kind of reaching out, community reach out. It's something you just got to figure out. And there's really two paths you can take, right? You can take the path of I'm just going to do game design. I can hand it over to someone else that can handle the business side, and then I'm just going to keep designing games and kind of sticking, in that box. Or there's the other side where you say, no, I want to self-publish this and I want to kind of see this through. The moment you commit to go down that path, you have to commit to forcing yourself to learn these things, right? And like that's the reality of it, right? There's tons of stuff I've had to do in this industry that I don't like doing, but I force myself to do it, right? Like I am kind of on that border of extrovert, introvert, right? And it's like you got to psych yourself up sometimes to kind of get in front of people and kind of put on that face, so to speak, of being that outgoing person to get someone else excited about what you're excited about.
Right.
Um, but that's not natural to everyone, right? Like most people actually aren't natural at that, and you just got to kind of learn that skill and figure it out. So good for you for wanting to kind of to do that, put that that step forward and say, I'm going to make this work. Your campaign is funded, by the way, so I'll just get that out the gate there. So congrats on that, which I think is awesome for your first campaign. Especially with something that's like a card game, right? Like a small box where you have a lower price point. Like I don't know if people appreciate how difficult that is to get funded at a lower price point for your first game and kind of building that audience for scratch. So I think that is awesome. What was the affiliation with pizza? Like, did you have any? Was it just a passion for pizza? Do you know somebody in the pizza industry? Like, where's the
I
pizza coming
don't when I was coming up with the idea for the game, basically I just wanted a food that people share.
from? Yeah,
That and pizza's kind of the default choice. It's, internationally known and, easily recognizable and generally very well liked. It was just kind of the natural choice of just like I'm making a game that's about, people trying to decide something together,
yeah. Uh,
and everybody has decided together on what kind of pizza you want to get. It was I did not have to think that hard.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty ubiquitous, I guess. Pizza. I mean, my brother owns a pizza shop. Showed it to him with Ref's Pizza up here near just north of Toronto. and that's where we have our weekly game meetup is actually at that restaurant,
Oh,
right? So a lot of people in the public come out and we sit down and play games. But everyone loves pizza, right? Like it's hard to find someone that doesn't like, something in a pizza shop, whether it be, your calzones, panzerottis, your pizzas, or even garlic pucks, garlic sticks, things like that. So that's kind of cool, picking something that everyone can kind of relate to. This idea of like hidden roles, was this something that, like, how did that come to you? I was saying, I want to create like a hidden role game that's tied around pizza. Like, how did that idea even pop into your head?
so the idea wasn't originally like a hidden roles game per se. It was so like the inspiration for this game was a real life event that occurred to me, where I had a friend come in from out of town, and we decided we would go out to lunch somewhere. And we're like, okay, how about we go to this place here? So it's the German place. There's a little Oompa band playing sometimes, and
Yeah.
you can get giant steins of beer or whatever. Like it's a fun place. We'll go there, whatever. And so like we go there, and we sit down, we order, we've got our little steins of beer, and like and we're talking about what we ordered, and my friend from out of town is like, yeah, I'm not really excited about what I ordered. I don't really like German food. And we were all just like, "Well, why didn't you just say anything? We didn't care where we went. You just suggested this, and it was our first suggestion, and, you could have said no, like, we could have easily found somewhere else, but, like, that level of like, he's just a really, really polite guy. He doesn't wanna, you know he's always gonna be worried that he's, crushing somebody else's dreams or something. But
Yeah.
it's such a silly thing that like a group of adults that care about each other and want each other to have a good time, like accidentally did this thing that was just like not a good decision. So like that was really like the existence of that sort of paradox was fascinating to me. And so like I looked into it, and there is actually a name for that paradox. It's called the Abilene paradox,
Oh,
where
interesting.
it's where a group of people who are otherwise intelligent can all make a decision, like a group decision, in which none of them are happy, which it by just being too polite or making false assumptions. And then, when somebody voices that false assumption, other people make other false assumptions based off of it and all of that. So that was the inspiration.
So then when you're coming up with this idea of hidden roles, had you worked on any kind of hidden role kind of games or any of these kind of things in the past? Have you played a lot in the past, or like what got you into this genre of games, I guess?
I have played hidden role games in the past, and I usually think they're okay. I don't particularly care for social deduction games.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
just because I'm not good at lying, and I don't I'm not good at detecting when other people are lying, and that's kind of the whole basis for most of those games. And so to me, they just are exercises that don't even feel like the games because I'm just choosing things at random. Like none of
Yeah.
this matters to me. So I wanted a social deduction game that I would enjoy playing. And so in pizza rolls, like there is no social deduction. There is deduction, and
Mm,
it is social, but it's not a social deduction game. It's not
got
about
it.
figure out who's lying.
So it's like a lighter kind of vibe to it, right? It's kind of like trying to like gauge what other people have, but you're not trying to it takes out kind of some of the conniving, I guess, you have in traditional social deduction games.
Right, right. There's very little conniving involved in pizza rolls. It's more about like paying attention to, oh, they put anchovies on the pizza. That's something that I also want. So I should keep that in mind in case somebody takes anchovies off.
Yeah.
Then maybe I let them get an extra turn so that maybe they'll put anchovies back on. So like that's the reward for like the deduction is like paying attention to what other people are doing so that you have just this slight little edge in terms of knowing what other people are likely to do.
Yeah. So when I'm looking, I'm again, congrats on funding. I'm just showing your page here for those who are following along either live or on the replay. Um, yeah, I like the characters you have in it, which are kind of cute. The chefs. Who'd you get to do your character work? Like, who did you design these cards, or who did your design of the components and so forth?
I did. I did all of it. That was also another thing that was a steep learning curve. I back when I was in high school, 15 years ago or whatever, like I did some like computer drawing classes that we had a few of those, but like that was my entire sort of background in graphic design. So uh, I was I had to learn a lot. It was also a steep learning curve, but yeah, I am an okay, little kind of cartoonist. I can draw things okay, and this is just
Yeah.
drawing, but on a computer. So it wasn't too terribly difficult. I'll probably be touching things up, but just in case anybody's curious, that things will look slightly different, probably, hopefully, slightly better. There's a few glitches like the sausage doesn't look very good. It doesn't. It also problematically looks a lot like the olives. Uh,
Gotcha.
so little things like that that you kind of don't think about, but then like when you're finally playing, you're like, oh wow, somebody thought there was sausage on the pizza instead of olives, and so like everything kind of screwed up. That's the type of thing that you have to be cognizant of.
Yeah, there's always changes you're gonna make with any
Yeah,
campaign, right? So you have kind of your prototypes that you get out to get people to play test it, and it really comes down to playability is the key thing here, right? Like, is it a fun game to play? And those changes and tweaks going to come afterwards. But what I like about it is it's very simple. I mean, you've made your iconography and everything simple. Um, it's kind of funny how the highest score gets to wear like the pizza man's mustache, which is kind of funny. You have on the shown on the screen there. For those who don't know how to play this game, I'm wondering if maybe you can walk us through just quickly, kind of the gist of how you would play if you explain how to play this to somebody. How would they play this game?
okay. So it's a pretty simple game. It'll only take about 10 minutes. So there will be 8 toppings cards that'll be sitting on the table. They'll be next to a little card called "Not on the Pizza" to demonstrate that they are not on the pizza. And then there'll be another little card that says "On the Pizza."
Hmm.
And the gameplay is essentially boils down to everybody using their limited resources to move those toppings around between on the pizza and not on the pizza. And you can flip them over and they'll be worth double points. And just once everybody's out of resources, whatever is on the pizza is the pizza you ordered. And so you'll score based off of that, and everybody will have a little hidden roll that tells them which toppings they like and which toppings they don't like. And they'll get points for the ones they like. They'll lose points for the ones they don't like. And that's really the gist of it.
Yeah. In 10 minutes in and out. So it's a great game night kind of warm up too, I would say, right?
Yeah.
So if people are
Yeah.
looking for something that's like I mean, I have that again tonight. We've got our game night coming, and I saw one of the members had already emailed everyone saying, "Hey, I'm going to be about 20 minutes late. Can you guys hold off starting that game we were wanting to play until I get there?" It's like, okay, now we got to come up with a 20-minute game to fill in that time so we can hold that spot for that person. So something like this, and there's tons of situations like that. I've got a number of games in my game bag that are quick to play for that exact reason, right? Which I think is cool. And I noticed when I was talking to you kind of by email leading up to this and seeing some of the stuff online you're doing on your Facebook page, y- the marketing you've done around this is a lot of it is really face to face, right? Like, so
Yeah.
you went and printed a bunch of these, and then you've been literally handing them out to like reviewers and things like that, or walk us through
Yeah,
that.
that is the vast majority of my marketing. Just because as I already talked about, I'm not like into graphic design. I'm not into marketing.
Sure.
Um, I felt like the best investments for me to make for the most part were to just get the game in front of as many people as possible and let them play it and see that it is a fun game. Um, and like I just felt like that was my best shot just because, and I mean, that actually proved very true because I did pay for a few advertisements online and stuff, and they
Sure.
did not work very well. So like almost all of my backers came from, meeting people at various cons. I was at Gen Con. I was at like 4 or 5 other like local-ish Cincinnati cons
Yeah.
or in Kentucky here.
Yeah, my record to most people, if you've never run ads or meta ads, I mean, it's always better to use a third party for that. Whether it be backer kit marketing is one I use myself. I mean, I've done meta ads myself, and I do meta ads leading into the campaign. When I get to the campaign, I hand that over. I put my time into, okay, now how can I work on the community? I'll let them take care of the ads. That's what they're experts at. That's where they have all the analytics to show exactly how to slice and dice the people we're targeting. And so it's okay to ask for help in certain areas if it's places where it's not in your core expertise, right? So, but there is something to be said about that grassroots marketing. And getting a game into people's hands and getting people to talk about it and generating buzz, especially at a place like Gamma, where you've got that's your audience right there, right? And you can get the early buzz going and getting those signups. You'd be amazed at how that can kind of catapult you in terms of exposure. I had a there's a it's kind of like almost like a Comic Con that we have here in Canada in Toronto, and it's called not BreakoCon. It's Fan Expo. And Fan Expo, they have much like Comic Con, they'll have like the artist alley where you can go and like get artwork signed and see guys that draw anime and things like that. And the last one I went to, there's a group there that was had their game on Kickstarter, and they were pitching their game, which was tied into a graphic novel that they had kind of illustrated, and they're pitching it and taking signups there on the spot. And something as simple as having an iPad with the link that the person can actually just tap on and kind of sign up right there on the spot. It's amazing how well they did. They said, wow, one of their largest bumps was actually during that con. It wasn't even the first day. It was during the actual Fan Expo because just the sheer volume of people going through there that they were able to connect with really kind of got them to that next level. So, I think when you're trying to bootstrap it and kind of do it on the cheap to get that first game out there and kind of get your feet wet, this is a great way to approach it, right?
Yeah, it's been working so far.
So as you've been going through this whole process, what's something you would say that if there's someone else that's looking at getting into this for the first time that they should consider or they should think about or a way to kind of approach their campaign if they're kind of doing it for the first time as well?
First thing I would say is put your put your slow down your timeline. Uh,
Yeah.
I know when I first started, this was like, all right, I'm gonna try to do it this year, and then like I got to closer to around Gen Con, and it's like there's no way that I'm gonna be for any of this stuff. Just because especially like if you have a day job, if you're just trying to like, doing everything for your first time, like there's a bunch of roadblocks that you'll run into that you didn't really realize were roadblocks that you would run into. Um, and so like I can't list all of them because you go through them and you kind of forget about them until you run into them again. But yeah, just be patient would be the first and foremost thing, and just like
Hmm.
be patient. Just try to network and try to meet people and try to learn from them. And if you can learn about a mistake that they made on their campaign or whatever, hey,
Yeah.
look, you don't have to make that mistake. So just be patient and take it slow. Like pizza rolls first began like 6 years ago or something. This is not like I didn't create this a year ago. This has been a slow burn for many, many years of
Yeah.
me slowly iterating on a game and trying things. And I've been designing other games, and I sometimes I'll use an idea that I first put in a game about mechs or something, and I'll be like, oh, but if I use that over here in this other game, like I bet that could really work for well. It's like playing other people's games, especially like just take everything slow and just learn as much as you can.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. It's and I quote him all the time, but Jamie Stagmeyer in his book, I'm pretty sure on his blog too, he says, "No one, if you delay your campaign, nothing bad will happen. But if you launch before you're ready, all kinds of hurt is coming your way." And it's true, right? But it is the hardest thing to do is to delay a campaign. No one wants to delay their campaign. You create these false kind of timelines in your mind of, oh, but I was planning on doing X, Y, Z, or I had to line it up with this thing here. So, I have to make it happen here. And the
Huh?
reality is those are constraints you're building up yourself and you're putting in your own mind, right? And taking the longer path is sometimes, well, almost always going to deliver you a better result in this industry than trying to just say, no, 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 I'm going to launch by XYZ by hell or high water, right? The last thing you want to do is be chasing your funding goal throughout your campaign. That is excruciating. And I've talked to so many people where it is a very different conversation off air, like once we get off mic, right? And I say, how are things going? If they're already funded, they're feeling great. Now it's just like, okay, how much more funding can I get? But if they haven't funded in those first 48 hours and they're chasing it, it is a very different conversation offline, right? Like it is just mental anguish, right? 30 days of trying to hit that funding goal, and you know you're going to hit it, but it's going to be a grind the entire way through. It's so much better to focus that energy on just interacting with your audience and high-fiving, right? Like, so, I always say this to people is, make sure you're ready, make sure you do your homework. As you're saying, talk to as many people as you can. If you can learn from other people's mistakes, um, like you don't have to repeat the same mistake. Just watch what they did and do the opposite, right? Learn from them, right? So but it's shocking how many people won't do that, that they still have to
Yeah.
learn those mistakes themselves. And I guess that's life, really, right? It's like a parent and kids, where the parents always want their kids to learn from the mistakes they made, but the kids always want to chart their own path. And you have the same cycle happening over and over again, where people have to keep learning the same lessons over and over again. So I guess that's a fact of life. But hopefully, if you can look to others and look to other campaigns, say, okay, what did they do right? What did they do not so well? Listen to podcasts, talk to other people, and network. There's lots of things you can read. I mean, I plug these guys all the time. I don't get any financial benefit from them. I just happen to like crowdfunded by Launch Boom. Get their book. There's so much in there. Like it's literally paint by numbers on how to do stuff like this. You can learn from other people, and there's so many free resources out there. So what kind of comes after this? So what's next for your campaign? So once your pizza rolls is funded, so congrats. How many more days do you have left in your
I
campaign?
think we're at like 7, 6 or something.
Yeah, so you got like a week left to
Yeah.
go. Um, and so I'm sure you'll be happy with where it ends. But then what's the next step? Like, is this a one and done? Is there other games you're going to publish? What's the plan?
So that's a good question. I mean, uh, I would, I do it. I have a number of other designs that I would love to publish. I have a couple that are, approximately ready to be published. Have probably the next one that, if I continue self-publishing and nobody magically just
Yeah.
runs into me again and is like, oh yes, please, I want to distribute your game. That's number one plan. I hope that happens. But number two would be, if this Kickstarter went well, theoretically the next one will go easier because this first Kickstarter is marketing in and of itself to a degree. So everybody who bought pizza rolls and enjoyed it and shared it with other people, like all of those people now might be interested in my next game. So like the next one I would probably have on the calendar would be called Pervana. It is a sort of mini deck builder about being
Yeah.
a cat and
Oh, nice.
everybody's racing to reach cat enlightenment.
Oh,
So
that's fantastic. And people love cats too, so.
people do love cats.
Oh man. Well, Tom, I want to wish you all the best on this campaign. I'm so happy to see that you funded early, and this is going to be a good finish for you. And I hope you enjoy yourself at Gamma and just network, man. I'm definitely cheering for you. And for those who want to check this out, I am going to put a link in the show notes. So simply just click on that link. It'll take you to this page, or type in pizza rolls, ROLES. So there's a pun there, and you'll find the campaign. Check it out. If there's something that interests you, then maybe throw him a pledge, or at the very least $1, so to help him with his backer count.
Yeah. Yeah. And if anybody's got questions, I will answer you. Just send me an email or post a comment. I will reply to you.
Sounds good, buddy. You take care.
Yep,
Cheers.
you too.
This has been an episode of the Board Game Binge podcast, hosted by James Staley, produced by James Staley and Mike Bruner, with original music by Nick Smith. If you would like to watch these interviews live, simply subscribe to our YouTube channel, Board Game Binge, and you'll get access to live interviews, giveaways, and interesting board game content from across the industry. I can't wait for you to join us. See you next time.